Hello Legends. So here we have my latest finished piece. You can see it's the Gorka Morka Ork. I'm quite happy with it. I'm pleased with the way I've been able to combine the different bits and pieces of the GW terrain for orcs to make this base. The extra shapes poking out outside of the bounding of the plinth, I think they work for an orc because orcs are so chaotic. This model is the first one that I've painted since I've sort of gone on hold on any kind of like high-end, trying very hard commission box art sort of stuff, because I've been sick and so exhausted for a time. I'm basically spending the rest of the year just doing personal projects, and this is I'm using this time, planning on using this time to do some learning on non-metallic metals. I want to practice all different types of non-metallic metals and different types of metals because I feel like it's an area where my work is a bit weaker, and there are certain aspects of that I'd really like to improve upon. Now this model has been sitting prepared for a while for me, so while it doesn't have a lot of metal elements, it does have enough of the type of metal that I wanted to practice in this instance, which is dark iron or very dark metal, which is really difficult to achieve. It's much more difficult than you think, because once you start adding highlights like on the top of his helmet and shoulder pad, once you start adding really bright highlights, it starts to look like really shiny metal. So keeping it looking dark and dirty and like iron is really difficult while also achieving a good look. And in some cases, like the value on the metal of the floor here, it's just all different colors. I don't know how visible that will be in the videos, but if you check out the photos that I have posted, hopefully the multicoloredness of that grey will be apparent. But you see how this is just basically edge highlighted along the edge there. It's the same with metals here. For his boot, the top section here I've left mostly dark with a few little scratch lines, and then the highlight here and here, but there's a lot of just like edge highlight, edge highlight, edge highlight, edge highlight only. The helmet was particularly interesting. I shrunk and shrunk and shrunk the little highlight spot on there multiple times until it was just as small as this, and now it's basically all dark except for that spot at the front. I think it works well. And then I mean, having the spike reflecting white only on the front here and here, I think is also a part of what makes that look metal. The same sort of thing with the gun. Most of it's just a dark value with bright edge highlights, and the same in the background, bright edge highlights. The same again for the chain. It's mostly dark with some edge highlights there and there, and then you get some small areas where you go bright on the edges. So another thing I want to work on with my work is trying to not be too clean. I feel like I've gotten into a place where I'm being a bit too smooth lately, and yeah, I know some people are going to want to kick me up the butt for this, but it's something that I want to be able to work on. Like I love the way people like Mark Maskelyne's, he's smooth, but he's also very brushstrokey, and you can see the paint, you can see the painting, you can see the style within the work, and that's something that I'm very eager to chase. So this was an excellent project to start doing a lot. Like I mean, I use a lot of texture, and it's still pretty precise because I think that's just always going to be part of my thing. But I have tried to consciously try not to blend everything really smoothly and try and leave a lot more marks and strokes and texture and everything within everything. And a big part of something that resonated with me recently was Natalia said something that just really opened my mind. She said that everything is freehand, and I hadn't really considered that before, and it really expanded my horizons because it's so true. Everything really is freehand. Where you paint and choose to paint the volumes, how you paint them, what you do with them, it's all down to your own choice of style. And thinking about it, everything is freehand like that is very similar to the way I think about light. Like a lot of the time you hear OSL and object source lighting used to describe different types of light, but in my head I've always just thought about it as just light and different types of light, and object source lighting is a good way to describe it. But then to think about painting volumes and painting everything, and everything being freehand, has really opened my mind to think about things in different ways, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to take me. I haven't painted orc skin for a while. The last time I did it, I think, was on the Snazwagon diorama. I wanted to do things a little bit differently this time. I've gone for a more yellow warm tone on this guy, and surprisingly the paints that I used for his skin are mostly in the yellow range. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of green in him at all. I'd say it's all mostly yellows. The parts that look green is more like black mixed with yellow, which does look green. And so that's where his green skin tone came from. And I was very conscious for the whole time painting this model that I wanted him to be warmer than everything else in the scene, because it was going to be quite a complicated and lots of little small details. So I needed a way to make sure that he stood out. An example of this is to look at the skin on the main orc compared to the little ammo carrier grot, and you can see that he's much warmer. The grot is a little bit more green. It's not a lot, and he's a little bit colder, but that difference helps to make this guy the main focus of the scene. And that's another thing that I want to try and work on as well. Like a big, huge part of the way I work is just absolute obsession with focus, and I want to try and tone that back a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to ever let go of that, but I want to try and bring up more of the rest of the model without being so spotlighted. I mean, I've still done my normal thing of, like, you know, going cold and much different colors for the back. Like you can see the back of him is much more green, and I mean that's part of my signature, I suppose, so I don't know whether I'm ever going to change that. And considering that this model is this scene is a very two-dimensional look, like, I mean, you look at it here and you might turn it like this to get what you want to see, but the rest is like, this angle is really nothing. You just look at that and just like, bleh. But from the back, it's not too bad. I mean, I've said this in other videos that when you use dramatic lighting, you seem to always end up with a bad angle. But I mean, if I look at this angle here and how bad I feel like it looks, it's not terrible, but that is the worst angle of the piece. And I wonder if it was painted to make this angle look good, whether it could look good. I mean, there's the way that the GW prints minis, there's all the, you know, the flat side, because it can only be up and down. I don't know how to explain that. But like, this is where the detail is missing from. But then on this side, I feel like it doesn't lose so much. There's not really any bad angles from this side. I don't know if you can see some of the extra details that the guy blocks. There's a chain down there, some more bolts, lots of shells all over the model. It was an interesting factor of painting this model was you paint base and models separately, and you have to think about how the base is going to work with the models before you put the models on the base. And that kind of complex decision making is really interesting to me, because you've got to constantly think about, you know, what's going to be reflecting here. So where is his feet going to be? So do I put a bit more green or dirt or whatever to impact the look of the metal in certain places? Like thinking about the reflections on here, on the back here, I didn't want to make the sides of this bit of metal here too bright, because I knew that the orc was going to be in the way of most of that, and I feel like if it was too bright it would be clashing when it was against him. If you look at where the base elements all surround and frame him, most of them, there's nothing really too bright to clash with the way he looks. And then, I mean, there's this spike here. I didn't really consider it for that, but it's kind of like behind the gun anyway, so I kind of lucked out with that. I didn't think a lot about whether his foot would be blocked, and for the most part it isn't. I think in the photos it probably will be, because maybe not. I usually have to take photo from a long way back because of the macro lens. But yeah, it's always interesting to think about how the model is going to interact with the piece in the final way like that, and thinking about the direction of the light. And I mean, I've kind of gone for just a general light from the front. In this case, this maybe coming from this side a little bit, but mostly the front. So you can see, like on this round thing here, I knew that I wanted the light to be reflecting through from this angle, and the same with the brass wire. But then when you turned it, it's a bit dark, because I knew we were starting to get into the shadow side of things here. And I mean, yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is this sign up here. I actually had quite a conundrum at the end of things trying to decide how to paint it. I had a lot of different choices in mind. I mean, there was a red background and a yellow orc. There was a yellow background with a red orc. Steel background, red orc. Steel background, yellow orc. Red background, black orc. Red background, steel orc. Ended up going for this way after some excellent suggestion from Josh Quarterpaint, where he said that rusting the top section here might help with this brighter area being closer to to the character, and hopefully will curve the viewer as they go up. Looking here will come back down to the model. I like that idea a lot, so I chose to implement it. The other main choice was red background and yellow orc, and I still feel like that could have been a cool choice. It would have made the piece have a triangle focus, which a lot of people like to say is very useful. I myself don't think about that sort of thing too often, but in the end I chose to go this way because it's quite high up here, and if the red and yellow is here, it bounces you around and it makes it a little bit more of the scene, but this way it's kind of like more in the background and not a part of the scene, rather than taking attention away from the orcs. I just wanted to leave it back there a little bit, so there was some consideration with that. Yeah, that's about where my thoughts go for this one. I think I've covered the main factors. Another thing I chose, the fluff on the boots and the hat. I initially had that painted white. I'll pop up a work in progress picture for you to have a look at. But then when I painted this little guy, I had left it black, and I did it black. I thought it was much better looking, so I went back and painted it black on the orc, and I definitely feel like it's better this way. The black fur provides a bit more contrast around the face, and it fits the scene better, and it's also closer to the original artwork that this guy was, the original version of this guy that was sculpted in, cast in metal back in the day. The Gorka Morka artwork is what I was trying for with this scene, so yeah, went with black, which is how it is in the artwork, and I think that was the right choice. So thanks for watching. I hope you found it helpful. I find it good to get my thoughts out at the end of projects like this, so I hope you find it interesting to watch. This one's actually gone on for quite a bit longer, but I think that there was a fair bit to talk about. It'll be interesting to see where this NMM journey that I'm going on will take me, and then getting into the new year I'll be getting back to work doing more official stuff, although probably at less of a pace than I had been doing those kind of projects, because I think the pressure I'd put on myself was potentially part of what had caused me to become unwell. And so yeah, there we are. Thanks for watching. Catch you later, guys.